Hey everyone, hope you're all doing well. This video is going to be a technical guide in terms of how you can write a better text response essay, with the main focus being on body paragraphs. So I'll cover what you should write and how you can convey your ideas in the most concise yet effective way. Now, that's not to say that the intro and conclusion aren't important, it's just that the structure for these two are quite flexible and dependent on your school. As long as you convey your contention clearly, then you should be fine. Okay, let's get started. So I have here one of my sample paragraphs. I just want to say that the text and the actual content here is not important, so I'll keep this PG, partially generic, that way everyone can follow along. Okay, so you can see that I've broken up my body paragraphs, so it's a bit easier to see all the different parts. And the overall structure follows not a teal structure, but rather a teal structure. So a couple more E's. And as you can see, I have my topic sentence here, followed by this segment, which is my explanation and evidence, so 2 of the E's. And then I repeat this 3 times. So for each chunk, I'm explaining one idea and supporting that with evidence. And feel free to deviate from this number, so this is just a general rule. And finally, we end with the link. Now let's break down each part and see how you can write the best possible body paragraph. Starting with the topic sentence. The most important thing is not how fancy it looks, but does it answer the topic or not? The best case scenario is where you should be able to take the topic sentences from all 3 paragraphs, and they should basically answer your essay question. So for example, this is my first topic sentence. This is basically about how the writer condemns modern society because he thinks that this corrupts humanity. And as you can see, this is my topic, and this is why in my topic sentence I say, the poet condemned modern society for corrupting the purest form of humanity. And this is a direct reference to the first part of the topic, although it might be worded slightly differently. Now, for topic sentences, you want to make sure they address one aspect of your topic, since you still want to have other things to talk about in your other body paragraphs. Another tip is that with your topic sentence, try to avoid being specific to the text, but rather focus on the idea. What I mean by that is it's best not to mention characters or long quotes in most cases, but rather keep it general and focus on the underlying idea that the author is trying to portray. For example, if your text was Shakespeare's Macbeth, rather than saying Macbeth's murder of Duncan was responsible for his downfall, it's probably better to say Macbeth's immoral ambition was responsible for his downfall. So focus on the larger theme, ambition in this case, rather than specific events such as the murder of a particular person. And yes, they are related, but you want to start broad and then end up specific. And in my case, if you're wondering, the large theme here is the corruption of modern society. Now, I haven't talked about this first part of this topic sentence. The reason I included this was because I'm not too much of a fan of signposting, such as using firstly, secondly, and so on. I much rather begin topic sentences with something called a lead-in sentence. Lead-in sentences, what I like to call them anyways, is basically a short half sentence before your actual sentence, which adds more color and tone to your overall piece. For example, a non-essay related example would be, instead of, she dashed out of the room stricken with fear, you would say, with a lead-in sentence, stricken with fear, she dashed out of the room. There's a couple reasons of doing this. The main reason is because it adds variety, which is important, and second, it helps the reader identify what the overall tone and idea of the piece is by placing the important information first. So back to the essay example, defying the ever-growing industrial forces. This not only sounds better at the beginning, but it serves to set the tone for the entire paragraph. Alright, now let's look at the explanation and evidence part of our teal structure. And I'll just focus on one of these sections because they all follow the same structure, which is the how, what, why. And the how, what, why structure is basically the same thing as explanation and evidence, although it's just a bit more specific in terms of each particular element. So that's why I'm going to refer to how, what, why from now on. So just to review what each part means, what is what the author is talking about, that's your idea. How is this conveyed? So is this idea conveyed through a quote? And then why? Why is this idea conveyed? What is the meaning behind it? And why does this link to the topic? And this is your analysis. So let's take a look. And I'll just mention that the first part of this might sound familiar because we begin with a lead-in sentence. And I also picked this example because you should be able to understand the basic gist of it even without doing the text. But basically, the writer, or the poet in this case, is saying that his city, London, England, is being corrupted and is like a swampland. So the first sentence, the poet ironically likens the foul state of modernizing England to a fen of stagnant waters. So he's basically saying that England looks like a swampland. So the how is the quote that I have here, the fen of stagnant waters. And what refers to the idea, which in this case is the state of England being foul and corrupt. So oftentimes how and what go together in one sentence. Now the next sentence is the most important section of your essay because it's where you analyze. And this might sound complicated, but essentially there's two parts to your analysis. Explain your quote, and then explain how this links to your topic. For example, when I'm analyzing my quote, the fen of stagnant waters, it's important to make sure that your analysis is specific to that quote. And the rule I like to use is if you can take your analysis and apply it to a completely different quote and it still makes sense, then it's probably not specific enough. For example, here I say the stagnant waters represents a bleak image of a static swampland, which demonstrates that society was not progressing. So stagnant just means staying still, and here I explain what stagnant waters actually means and what it refers to. If something is stagnant, it's not moving and it's laying still, which reflects, and this is my own analysis, this reflects how society was also remaining still and not progressing. So when I'm unpacking this quote, always ask yourself, what is the specific meaning being conveyed? Rather than just saying something generic, such as this quote suggests that the author hates modern cities. That's the first part of why. The next part is where we want to say, why does this quote that you picked link to the topic? And in this case, the reason I picked this is because I wanted to show that humanity was corrupt in this particular scene. And this links back to the key word in my topic. So you can see I'm using very similar wording to what I have in my essay question, because that's how you show your assessor that you're making conscious decisions to link to the topic. So that's it, the how, what, why structure. That is the basic building block of your entire paragraph. And basically you just repeat this 3 times and you got yourself a full paragraph. And finally, we have our linking sentence. Nothing too special here, but it's basically a restatement of your topic sentence. But just make sure to also link to your topic here. Alright, so that is it. That is the structure I used for every single paragraph in my text response essay, and then I just repeated each paragraph 3 times to get my full essay. This also applies to comparative and argument analysis, just with some small deviations. I hope that was helpful, and happy to address any questions in the comments below.